Okay, hello everybody. Welcome to Korean Atlanta Mentorship here with another video. So, if you don't know who I am, I'm just going to quickly show you two things about me. This is just my street cred. I paid off a mortgage in 2 years and 9 months in 2024. Oh my goodness, we're going to 2026. And also, I have over $739,000 in lines of credit and credit lines. So, how did I get this? I'm going to tell you something that most people don't really want to hear is dealing with rich people and rich entities, okay? When you deal with rich people and rich entities, it's much easier for them to pay you, okay? It's much easier for them to pay you than dealing with people who don't have money. And the way that I kind of think of it is like this: if you were to sue somebody, would you want to sue someone who has no money or someone who has a lot of money? Okay, you want to sue the person who has a lot of money, because if you get a judgment on them, they have to pay. Whereas even if you get a judgment against someone who has no money, you can't get blood from a stone. Okay, you can't get blood from a stone, so you win a judgment you can't collect because that person has no money. You can't get blood from a stone, right? And it's the same thing with goods and services, right? So I'm not going to sue anybody, just to kind of make my get some money out of them. But what I would prefer to do is, if I'm going to make some money, I'm going to sell high quality good or service onto the marketplace and then sell it to people who have a lot of money, right? And that's what I need to do. Like, I know that someone wrote on this channel, it's like, I'm a high income professional. Please make your channel for velocity banking for rich people. Actually, what I said is I'm going to make a channel for velocity banking for doctors. But let me see if I can find that comment. Give me one moment. Yeah, there we go. I'm a doctor of education and have a good income. I would love you to start that new channel. So recently I was talking about like how I should probably create a velocity banking channel for rich people, where it's like, these are doctors that I've helped, right? And or nurses. And the reason I talk about this is because if you're new to the channel, I always tell this story about the one time I did a Zoom call with a nurse that I know, and I showed her velocity banking. And it's like, oh, here we go, 3 houses and paid off in 10 years. Look how easy that is. And this nurse made over like 200,000, I think, in her family income or household income, right? Her income and her husband's, and she has like almost 3 grown kids. And I remember when I showed it to her, man, there was like no emotion out of her face. I called it the velocity banking poker face. But it's like, oh yeah, yeah, three houses paid off in, actually, let me just show you. Do I still have that right here? Oopsie. 3 houses paid off in, oh, I don't think I have it anymore. In like 10 years, and look how easy that is. And then I just realized, you know what? I probably need to do some rich people marketing again, doctors, lawyers, because they struggle with debt too. Bank's favorite target is not poor people. See that too? Like, the bank's favorite target, it's actually people who make good money and then don't know how to manage it. That's like the bank's favorite target. It's not poor people. Like, if you're a bank and you're dealing with poor people, you're like, huh? Like, I don't want to lend to them. And I'll go into that a little bit later. But man, I really need to get off my keister and start a new channel. And I'm trying to think of some names. Like, I don't know if I should be blunt and say velocity banking for rich people, or velocity banking for doctors and nurses, or cash flow clinic. I've already kind of looked that one up, but I think people use that in like Instagram. Cash flow hospital, cash flow medicine. Debt free medicine. I think a dude took that one, but I'm trying to think of like titles where it's like geared towards like high income professionals who pay like 300 an hour, and then like just geared towards them, right? Because the thing about rich people, and this includes myself, is that when you make a lot of money, you really want to save time. Like, you'll pay people to clean your house, you'll pay people to uh, you know, grocery shop for you if you're at that level. You just don't want to do it anymore. Like, there used to be a time, once upon a time, where I used to love going to the grocery store. And then now at this stage in my life, like, ugh, I hate going. I hate going. This is just a waste of my time. Rich people problems, am I right? So I gotta figure out if by, either the end of the year or next year, I should create a new YouTube channel, just kind of gear it towards high income people. And that's what I'll probably do. But then there's also the trap of if you tell people your plans, you're probably not going to do it, right? Which is kind of bad. So hopefully I didn't jinx myself and by saying I'm going to do this and then not do it, because I know that was really you know, a weakness of mine, especially when I was younger. All right, let's go ahead and get started. Velocity banking, what is it? It's a debt payoff strategy, and we're going to do it for rich people today, okay? 16 grand a month. And let me just ask, 16K a month after tax, what is pre-tax? Yeah, you're making 20 to 22,000 a month. So if you're, oh, so this must be like a doctor. So I think I did that. So like the student loan here, $200,000. All right, so let's assume that we are rich, right? If you're not there, just, sometimes they say like you imagining that you're there is like um half the battle, right? I'm not saying it's the entire battle. We'll just say half the battle, right? Like, you ever hear that anecdote about like this guy was poor, but he always took first class because he really believed it, right? And then he eventually became rich. I don't know. So let's kind of think about this so that we're a doctor and we make good money, but you know what? Our finances are pretty bad. So, do you think there are business owners and doctors out there whose finances are all over the place? I would say, heck yeah, there are plenty of people like that, right? In fact, if I just go on Reddit, doctor, med school, loan, worry, let's see what okay, what what we get. Need advice for dealing with student loan anxiety, medical school, right? High med school debt is stressing me out. So I think there is a market for this service, and I just need to promote, and market. And one of the funny things is I actually called this YouTube channel Korean Atlanta Mentorship because this was like a test pilot, and I actually did not want people to watch this channel, believe it or not, because if people know who I am, then it's kind of embarrassing for me because I have a lot of thoughts, uncensored thoughts that when people like talk to me like, dude, this dude thinks like this. Yeah, I'm a little bit of a chameleon when I'm a person, but who's gonna join a channel called Korean Atlanta Mentorship? But apparently, we got a good number of people. 4,000 subscribers. We'll probably reach that 5,000 soon. Actually, the watch time has been going a little bit down, but no worries. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. Velocity banking. So the first step to it is a budget, income, expenses, leftover checking and savings. And I'll tell you what, if I had 16 grand a month in income and I only had $711 left over in my checking and savings, you would bet that I would be incredibly nervous. Like, I would be like, oh my goodness, right? And so we're gonna do the same budget with velocity banking, but we're going to make one slight tweak. Okay. And what's important when you do your budget is that you give an expense breakdown of every single debt that you have, right? Every single debt that you have. And then here you have your general operating expenses of $4,000 a month, right? So anything that's in black font is a debt, and anything that's in red font is not a debt, right? And so the whole point is that anything in the blank font we eventually want to go to zero. So when we do velocity banking, we just assume same income, even though more income is obviously better. And then with our checking and savings, okay, this goes to zero. This goes to zero. Okay. And then what we're going to do is we're going to have this number called cash flow that is different from checking and savings. So when we do banking the average American way, the checking account is the final destination of your money. Whereas the velocity banking, it's not. Like, our checking and savings is pretty much meant to be zero while we're doing this strategy. And let me just kind of show you how this looks like. If money comes in, it just goes right out. Money comes in, it just goes right out. Okay? Money comes in, it just goes right out. Where does it go? Into something called a line of credit. Now, I remember that Truist Bank used to have something called a physician's line of credit, but I don't think they have it anymore. Physician line of credit. Yeah, they don't have it anymore. They just have mortgages. Okay, they don't have that anymore. That's kind of sad. Doctor loans, mortgages for eligible physicians and dentists. They used to have a physician's line of credit, but Truist is doing what I'm trying to do, which is kind of do like instead of you know just say, hey, we're just giving out loans. No, 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 no. Loans for physicians and dentists, right? I got to do that. Velocity banking. Dr. Velocity Banking. That's what I got to call myself. Dr. Velocity. You know what? I might just use that. Dr. Velocity Banking. Okay. Lines of credit for eligible physicians and dentists. I mean, what's the difference between a mortgage for a regular person versus a physician and dentist? Well, if this is your lead generator, you know that they can probably qualify for the mortgage. So someone in the marketing department at Truist is incredibly smart. I'm gonna give props to that person. Anyways, all right, line of credit. So basically, what is it? It's a financial tool where you can borrow money, pay it back, and then use it over and over again, right? So if we have a credit limit, so there's an available credit limit, we can put funds into our checking account. And then if you take a look right here, this goes from here to the checking account, and then you click transfer funds, right? You click transfer funds, and then in a click of a button, money comes into the checking account. Okay, and so what we're going to do is assume we have access to a line of credit, and I know I said this in the beginning of the video, I have over $739,000 in lines of credit, which includes credit cards and personal lines of credit, business credit cards, and home equity line of credit. And here's the secret to getting all of this, okay? Banks don't lend money to people who need it because people who need money don't pay you back, right? I know that sounds harsh. Okay, so if we are here where we're making 16 grand a month and we have $711 left over, and we try to get more credit, according to the bank's risk model, and they have lots of data points to kind of back this up, you won't get paid back if you issue this person more credit. Okay, now we're going to assume that we have a free and clear line of credit here. Free and clear. Now, why do we assume we have free and clear even though we need money? It's because it makes the demonstration easier for me, and I'm pretty lazy. Okay, but realistically, what would happen is that if someone had like a home equity line of credit, it would almost be like 99999. Like I've seen this before, where people have like their balance. They have a home equity line of credit, and they just treat it as another maxed out credit card. It's really, really sad. Okay, all right. So this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna move some of our debt into the line of credit, and then what we use is something called a cash flow index. So if you don't know what that is, it's basically a formula of the balance of the debt divided by the payment. And then it gives you an arbitrary number, right? And this is kind of like a ranking system of your debt. So you want to pay off the lowest ones first. So you see that these are like 20s and 30s, but you don't want to pay off these first. So this 237, what does this mean? It means we get little bang for our buck for paying off the debt, because we have, I'll just compare these two loans. I can give someone $500,000 and they'll only give me $2,100 a month back in my cash flow. Okay. Or I could give someone $200,000 and get even more. Why would I pay this one off first when this one will give me more bang for my buck? And this is true with all the other debts too, right? So let's go ahead and do this. And this is what we're going to do. Move some debt into the line of credit. And how much is this? 5, 8, 15, 27, 30, 7, 10, 35, 12, 15. And then we're going to go ahead and sum this up. And this is $164,000. $164,000. Okay, so we're going to move it into the line of credit, and guess what happens here? Oh my goodness, these payments just go away. It's like doing a balance transfer, right? Whoa, how do we get from $711 being a broke doctor to $5,822? Right? Now it feels like we're making a little bit more money, okay? All right, and then the final step is we put our entire paycheck into the line, take our expenses out, and then rinse and repeat over and over again. So 5822.7. Let's see, 5822 22.7. And then what we do is we take the average daily balance, multiply by the interest rate, all right, so 0.08, and then divide it by 12, okay? And so now I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste this, and I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste this, and we see right here, wow, you know, struggling at $700 a month when we're making 16 grand, unacceptable. But now we've gotten rid of all the credit card debt, so we're at month 32 now. So 32 months, and then 164K, okay, and then I'm just going to do this right here, and then we have 4 loans, right? So remember the anxiety-inducing student loan that we just saw, high med school debt stressing me out, 400K. This guy must have been like a specialist or something. Okay. How soul crushing is your medical debt? Freaking out because I've screwed myself over. Are med students really in this much debt? Right? So this is not a problem. None of this is a problem. We're going to go ahead and tackle that. We're a doctor, right? We went to school for 8 to 12 years. We can do it. All right, so now let's go ahead and go to the loan, so which is going to be 32 months, and then, so we do that, and then these are the balances of the loans. Just kind of do the same thing that we did last time. The cash flow index. So I'm going to go ahead and do this right here. So it's about 44 grand, and then let's just move 44 grand of these 2 auto loans. Remember, we're a doctor, so we got to get good cars. We can't get $20,000 loans. We got $40,000, $50,000 loans. So every time we drive into an office, a medical office, got to look a little bit balling, right? If you're the doctor, you don't want people seeing you drive a Toyota. You know what I'm saying? Even though I drive a Toyota. Anyways, here you go. All right, so now these 2 auto loans go to 0. Oh my goodness. So 7 grand, and then I'm going to do this right here. So minus 7475.98, and then right here is 38 months. Okay, 38 months. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 38 months. We paid off 2 auto loans, and I'm going to do this right here. 164 plus 40 plus 50, and 254K, and then here, and then student loan and the mortgage. So where are we at with the student loan? So this is gonna be 0, 0, month 38. All right, so 38 months. So let's move the student loan into the line of credit, and we're gonna do that right here. And then, all right. So now plus 152,711.5. Whoopsie, I forgot another one. 711.5. And so what happens here? Well, this student loan goes to 0. And then we got $9,000 of cash flow. And so now 9891.98. And let's see how long it takes for us to pay off the debt. And look at this, 39 to 54 months. That was so easy. Okay. Actually, let me ask ChatGPT this. Give me one moment. Okay, if you take a look here, when we're focused on paying off the student loan debt, it only took us about, let me just see here, so 54 minus 38, about 16 months. Okay, so let me just ask. I just showed in a velocity banking demonstration that a doctor can pay off student debt 200K in about, what was that again? 16 months. Do you think most doctors would be surprised to see this? Oh, they would be. All right, let's go ahead and read it out loud.
Many doctors would be surprised, and often for good reasons. Here's why. Pasture 1. The mainstream payoff expectation is much longer. Most physicians are used to hearing timelines like 10 to 25 years for student loan payoff, or 5 to 7 years if they're very aggressive. Hearing 16 months for 200K is so far outside the typical narrative that it naturally raises eyebrows. 2. Velocity banking isn't widely understood. Doctors usually get very little financial education during training. Many have never heard terms like HELOC float strategy, cash flow cycling, interest cancellation mechanics, debt acceleration via line of credit chunking. So a demo showing that structure may feel almost too good to be true unless broken down carefully. 3. Many physicians have inconsistent cash flow early on. New attendings often face relocation costs, board exam fees, buying into a practice, childcare family expansion, lifestyle inflation. So even high income doesn't always translate to high free cash flow. Seeing a strategy that turns existing cash flow into acceleration can feel surprising. 4. Most haven't seen the math in action. Velocity banking results feel counterintuitive unless you visualize how daily interest on revolving credit works, how chunking reduces principal faster, how loan amortization hides interest front loading. Once people actually see the math, they often say something like, wait, why did nobody teach me this? So, yes, most doctors would be surprised, not because the strategy doesn't work, but because it runs completely opposite to the traditional pay the minimum, make extra payments when you can thinking. If you want, I can also help you craft a short explanation doctors will immediately relate to or a visual slide script to show why the 16-month payoff is realistic. Just let me know.
All right, well, let's do this first. Let's pay off the mortgage. So, month 54. Hold on, someone just texted me. One moment. Okay, I'm back. Sorry, what was I saying? I got distracted. Anyways, this is now 0, and then this is now pay off the mortgage. So you have two options here. First one is to throw your extra cash into the mortgage, right? So you can definitely do that. And the other thing that you can also do is use a line of credit. Now, here's the thing that you have to be careful of is you don't want to dump the whole this 30-year mortgage at a low interest rate in a 8% or 10% line of credit. I'll just quickly demonstrate this with this velocity banking calculator. So what we're going to do is do something called chunking, and what chunking is you're just moving a piece of the loan into the line. So let me just fill in the details here. 500,000. What's the current balance? It's 450 459.98, 450 459.98, and payment amount is 2108.02. So 2108.02. And then what is the monthly income? The monthly income is 16 grand, 16000. And then the expenses is $4,000. Okay. Now I just want to show you what happens when you move the whole balance into the line of credit. Bam. Okay. Now this looks really impressive because it's like, oh, 3.7 years and I only paid 70 grand of interest. Okay. But what if we just kind of did this? Put it into smaller chunks, only paying 25 grand. And if I even do a 30%, that's still less than an 8% moving the whole thing loan into a line of credit, right? Got to be a little bit careful about that 30-year mortgage, especially, oh, see, I put the wrong, should be at 3%, especially, okay, if it's a 30-year low interest rate mortgage. So you got to be really careful about that because think about this. You're giving someone $500,000 for only $2,100 of cash flow. Same thing. You're moving 500,000 or a little bit less than 500,000 to only get 2,100. So if that's all you're getting, the debt isn't going to die down as quickly as one would think would. So this is why, like in certain cases, okay, we're okay with moving this 3% interest rate loan into a line of credit because you know it, we have enough cash flow when we pay it off, right? It's kind of counterintuitive. It doesn't really make sense at the beginning, but yeah. Okay, so now this is 0, and then now this is 3.4 years. So now This is 54 divided by 12 plus 3.4. So now it's 7.9 years debt free. And then, you know, what's next? Time to buy a hospital, right? Time to buy time to buy a hospital. Actually, probably for a hospital, you probably need to spend like, I don't know, at least like probably in the tens of millions. Let me just ask ChatGPT. How much does it cost to establish a hospital? Let's see. Let's see. Oh, ChatGPT's thinking. Yeah, 60 to 180 million. We're not there yet, but yeah, we're gonna get there, right? We're gonna get there. Okay. All right. Well, that's it for today, folks. Creanland Mentorship here with another video, Velocity Banking video. One day I'll get off my keister and create that new YouTube channel, that new YouTube channel for Velocity Banking for rich people, and maybe I'll do it if you know the what will really motivate me if I'm really broke, and maybe that's why I don't do things anymore as much as I used to. But I got to start wasting money. That's what I got to start doing. All right, well that's it for today, folks. Have a great day. I'll see you on the next one.